Something that almost every successful person in the world has in common is reading books. And as simple as it sounds, reading is really one of the biggest hacks out there. I mean, you're downloading somebody's life's work in this single book that you can read in a physical book, you can put it on your Kindle, you can listen to Audible on your commute. I mean, it really is crazy just how much information is at our fingertips now. And we're bombarded with YouTube videos, we're bombarded with podcasts, so many forms of media, but there's something special about books. And I think we all know that. It's just, I think it's that consolidation of somebody's really putting so much time into it. So books were a major factor for me in my entrepreneurial journey. And today I want to walk through 4 books that hit me at a particularly impressionable time. This is at the beginning of my entrepreneur journey. And, I was in college, I was figuring out what the hell I was doing. And these books really set me on the path to becoming an entrepreneur. So my goal is that hopefully some of you are at that turning point and you're thinking you're not sure what you're doing, and you want something better for yourself, which makes sense because living the normal life is pretty crazy. So you're on the right track. My goal is that maybe these books can just steer you a little bit closer to going down that journey. So this video is sponsored by Audible. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have any sponsors, but Audible is pretty good, and I've listened to a lot of these on Audible, so I didn't always have the time to read them, but this video is sponsored by smashing the like button so that this video can maybe get pushed out. So hopefully you like the video enough to subscribe, and let's just get into the first book. So the first book on my list is The Personal MBA by Josh Kaufman. And one thing I do want to mention about all these books is, for the most part, I haven't revisited them since they had such an impact on me early in my journey. And in a way I want to, and I also don't want to, because they helped me so much then. Now I might just be like, oh, they were so obvious. But to people that are starting out, hopefully all of these, you can recreate the magic that I had at this time. So the Personal MBA, I basically saw it as, a person's guide to an MBA, meaning rather than going to a college and getting this corporate MBA, this is like the entrepreneur's MBA in a single book. And it really inspired me a lot at the time, just because it walks through so many, from what I remember, so many different business models, and just really gets you thinking about all the different businesses that exist. In my little corner of YouTube, we get really pigeonholed vision on just looking at Amazon FBA and e-commerce and selling physical products. But, there's agencies, there's so many. It goes through like 15 or something completely different money-making just structures. And, it could be anything from being like a broker of deals to, taking commissions and percentages on things, or processing fees. Like, there's so many other angles to business than just simply exchanging money for a physical good. So yeah, the Personal MBA for me was just such a perfect intro to business, really showing me the structure, the possibilities, the foundations of what it would mean to start a business for myself. And this was the only really book I read in that sort of space of business books, I guess you would say. It really opened my eyes and just showed me the structure, the form, what it would look like to start a business. And it was probably the first book, I think it was the first business book that I read. And that could be part of why it just hit me so strongly. But it really did set me on this path, and just thinking about business in everything, how everything can be a business, and you're just always getting ideas, and not to think so small about what that business may or may not look like. So number 2 is a book that seemingly every entrepreneur ever stumbles on, and that is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And this one, while outdated in some ways, I just think it's a good read for everybody, like as a person. So this book is really responsible for the way that so many people communicate. The emails that you send to somebody to try to get what you want, but you try to make them feel why they're doing it and what they're ultimately getting out of it. Like, what is the benefit for them, and thanking them and wishing them well and kind of complimenting somebody before you ask them for something. And all of that sort of pleasantries of just being a good person and not coming across aggressively, not coming across as self-centered, all of those sort of negative traits that could come across when you're asking for something or trying to get somebody to do something. This is about structuring your phrasing, your negotiations, your communications in a way that makes people eager to want to be with you, to help you, to do what's in it for you by feeling that it's also for them. And it is funny that just a book like this is so popular amongst entrepreneurs because it does seem like such a strange topic, but I think it's just a lesson in communication. It's not going to teach you how to particularly make money, but it is showing you sales in a way. Sales is communication. And if you can communicate and persuade people to come along with you, then that is a financial skill to have. Next up, the absolute classic, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, as most people probably know. I guess if you don't know Tim Ferriss, his podcast is absolutely one of my favorites. He's written books like this, which is how I first knew and followed him. And the 4-Hour Workweek it's the Bible of this era of entrepreneurship, which is crazy because I think it was written over 10 years ago now. Actually, I think originally 2007, so 12 years ago. And it's so meaningful to today still. And this is one that I have gone back to in the last maybe year and a half, 2 years ago. I reread it. And it's just so good. I almost don't even know what to say. It's just like, you have to read it. If you can't be in this space and have not read the 4-Hour Workweek. It's the secret cult of this mindset and lifestyle. And of course, I think the biggest misconception with the 4-Hour Workweek is that it's about just working 4 hours a week. And it's really not. What it's about is the 80-20, the how to get 40 hours of work into 4 hours, how to do the things that matter and eliminate all the noise, how to, Tim Ferriss was one of the first ones to ever talk about outsourcing to the Philippines for entrepreneurial businesses. Before that was for, corporations and things like that. But he talked about, having virtual assistants in the Philippines, call places to make reservations for you and just things to streamline your life. And that is so important in business because you can even if you're at a high level of business, you're making a lot of money, you still need these things. You need to optimize your life. You need to streamline and condense so you can focus on the things that matter. And it's important at all stages. One of my biggest takeaways from Tim Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek is the concept of fear setting and facing your worst nightmares. So say when you're starting a business, you have all these fears and you're so worried about everything that could go wrong. And there's a lot of stuff in this space about, positive thinking and, all this stuff. And Tim is basically saying the opposite. Tim is saying, focus on the nightmare. Define the nightmare. What's the worst thing that could happen? Put it down on paper, figure it out. You start this business and everything goes crazy and everyone hates you and all this stuff. Then what would you do next? And by defining the fears and defining possible outcomes, it eliminates so much of the mental burden of going for it when you sort of realize you at least know who to ask if you get into this really bad situation. And by addressing those worst possible outcomes, it makes things seem a lot less scary. So the 4-Hour Workweek, an absolute must for any aspiring or current entrepreneur. I don't know how you could not have read this if you're an entrepreneur in the modern era. Fourth book on my list is The Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. And this was also in the first handful of books that I read on the topic of entrepreneurship. And this one, I remember the least, to be honest. But I know, and this is the perfect example of I wonder what I would think of it now. And I'm almost afraid to dive back in. But at the time, it was really revolutionary for my mindset. I feel that now I've probably got that from so many other places, and maybe you already have, that maybe it won't be as impactful. Or maybe if you're just at the beginning, it's exactly what you need. But it just shifted my paradigm of, the book is basically broken down to, are you in the slow lane of getting rich? Are you saving the right percentage of your income and all these things so you can get rich and retire at 65, hopefully not die, and then enjoy a couple of your dwindling years with your riches? Or are you trying to get rich while young? Are you trying to actually enjoy and get everything that you're going for fast? Not tomorrow, but not in 50 years. And that is the biggest thing I got out of this book, was just realizing what was possible. You know, I think he gives an example of running into somebody at a gas station with a Lamborghini Countach. And I don't even remember the exchange, but I just remember the feeling that the book gave me, and just kind of showing that, like, hey, like, you can do this. It's, you know, I just did this, this, and this. You know, forget about all this crazy go to school and just kind of your typical life path. And you can go down this other path, and there is another path. This one plus 4 Hour Workweek, I think, kind of work together like that. There's a lot of that in 4 Hour Workweek as well, but this book for sure was one of the things that planted the seed for me, just thinking differently and just knowing what was possible and realizing that I wanted to go down a different path and absolutely fuck that other path. Like, I'm not even going to touch it. And I remember it's an energetic book, and it was fast. I just couldn't put it down. I was really going through it and just so hyped, more than ever. And that's why I'm almost afraid to touch it, because I don't know if it would still have the magic. We'll see. So all 4 of these books will be linked in the description below this video. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Which of these have you read, and did you enjoy them? Did you get something different than I did? Have you revisited them? I'm curious what you think about that point. You know, did it lose the magic? And you can also let me know what were the books that triggered you onto this path and influenced you the most, particularly at the beginning. These were my first handful of business books. These are not the ones that I've read more recently. Maybe those will be future videos to come, but these were the ones that put me on this path, you know? So I'm curious if these books did that for you, or what books did. So let me know. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, and I hope you enjoy this video. See you next time.